Texas tatted on my arm, got Houston on my back, cause I love the city I'm from. Hands up if you feel that. I ball hard like a Texan every Sunday.
Texans Central Radio, hosted by Jay Anderson.
Hey y'all, this is your host Jay Anderson, kicking off another day and another edition of Texans Central Radio. Today we're going to talk about a lot of things. We're going to talk about Houston versus Miami, as well as is this the best Texans team that Bob McNair has ever owned, as well as which defensive star is ready to go ahead on the offense. Could it be J.J. Watts? Could it be Cushing? You just never know. But guess what? You're going to find out today on Texans Central Radio. As well as we will be having on amazing guest Tyler Brooke, who is an amazing writer and host for In the PFC Central family from the Indianapolis Colts. And we'll be talking everything from the Colts to the Texans today. Again, here on Texans Central Radio, as well as taking amazing live phone calls from you fans out there who want to know everything that is all things Houston Texans. So get ready, get strapped, because it's about to kick off.
Football fans, check out the official t-shirt apparel shop for the Pro Football Central Radio Network. Check out bigfrog.com/Cincinnati. That's bigfrog.com/Cincinnati. You think it, we ink it. They have an awesome 24-hour turnaround time. You can also visit them at their fabulous store over at Anderson Town Center, 7426 Beachmont Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio 45255. That's bigfrog.com/Cincinnati.
As the Texans have kicked off their preseason, winning over the Minnesota Vikings this past week, we're going to head into the kickoff again this week. We're talking about how Bob McNair has said that this year's Texans team is the best team that he has ever owned. Is that the case? Who's to say? But when you look at it on paper, over the past 12 years that Bob McNair has owned this team since 2001, and the Houston Texans became the Houston Texans, this actually is the best team that he's ever owned. He has a healthy Brian Cushing back. He has definitely a healthy J.J. Watts, and he's been resting his starters such as Matt Schaub. Again, you have Andre Johnson, who's been resting, along with 9 others who didn't play last week in the Minnesota game in which they won, but they're also going to be coming back this week. When you look at it on paper, this year's team is the best team that he's owned in the whole time, in the entire time that the Houston Texans have been the Houston Texans. However, will this Houston Texans team deliver this year? Will they deliver the wins that we're looking for? Will they be more than an 11-5 team as most people have projected them to? Will they go 13-3 as I would hope that they would like to go? My heart wants them to go 13-3, but my heart realistically knows that they may be an 11-5 team. However, time may only tell. But again, when you look at the Houston Texans on paper, they're definitely the best team that Bob McNair has owned. We've come a long way from our David Carr years. We've come a long way from our Corey Bradford years. We've come a long way from thinking that Dominique Davis / Williams / whatever you would like his name to be have come from. Dominique Davis / Williams is not Arian Foster. I don't even remember who our wide receiver was before we drafted Andre Johnson in 2003. I'm pretty sure most of you do know, but hey, it's not even here or there. It was over 10 years ago, and it's time to focus on the here and now and where we're going to go forward with our Houston Texans and how we're going to get of their playoff and of their playoff hump, and how I'd love to see them here in New York in February 2014. So today we're going to focus on who the Houston Texans are right now. Now who the Houston Texans we hope they will be, and not the Houston Texans that they were. Because that's who I want to see on the field come tomorrow. When the 9 starters who didn't play last week get on the field tomorrow and they're in for maybe 10 to 12 plays, I want to see who the Houston Texans are right here and right now. Not who they were, and not who we hope and pray to Santa Claus they may be, but today. And as far as I'm concerned, I agree with Bob McNair, who spoke to a host of people on, I believe it was either Tuesday or Wednesday night in Houston, and said to them that this is the best team that he's owned. Now, he said this a lot of times about teams. I have met Bob McNair in person. He's an amazing competitor. There's something about him that stands out amongst team owners that sets him apart. I'm not sure if this is just the Southern gentleman ways or the charm that he exudes, But he's a man who understands the teams that he owns. Just like the horses that he owns that do very well time after time, he understands the teams that he owns. And I definitely respect him for that. And with that being said, I definitely feel the same confidence that he has in this team this year, as well as I choose to exude the same confidence that he has this year and say it's the best team that he's ever owned. Andre Johnson, when he's healthy, there's not a lot that can stop him. DeAndre Jones, we witnessed what he could do in the Minnesota game, and as he continues to learn and progress and goes through time and time again in the repetitions that he needs to understand to get his routes down, to get the snaps down, to get his counts down, his footwork down, those things will come in time because he's a very new wide receiver in the NFL. Those things will come. He will develop as the season goes on. We have a healthy Brian Cushing who will be back on the field. We have an amazing, amazing talent in J.J. Watt who will be back on the field this week as well. We have Matt Schaub who will be there as well. We have a healthy competition this year. It's one thing. Most teams don't have 3 quarterbacks that can give them the talent base that they can. But not only do we have Matt Schaub, but we have TJ Yates, who we know can deliver in a crunch. We have Casey Keenum, who led U of A to their best season that they've ever had. We really can't complain with the talent and the depth that we have on our roster right now. So I agree with everything that Bob McNair has said by saying that this year's Texans are the best Texans that he's ever had. And I kind of dare anyone to argue that with me. There are some holes, there are some tweaks that we definitely could focus on, but any and every team is going to have those, will have those holes and will have those tweaks. But however, can those teams collectively say that they can be as effective as the Houston Texans? I don't think that they can say that. I wasn't able to see the game live, Houston and Minnesota. However, just like most of you who subscribe to the NFL Network, thank you for them. I was able to review the game in depth and go over and look at things that I saw and see holes that I saw. And of course, as any fan or anyone who watched that game, you definitely could tell it was the first preseason game for the Houston Texans. There were some mistakes that were made by DeAndre Hopkins, who who basically went back and said that if he had to grade himself on that game, he would give himself about a D. But that's to be expected. It's his first NFL game coming out of college, obviously, and then he played for Clemson, though a very great school for a very talented athlete. It's definitely not the speed that he was accustomed to and something he wasn't ready for as far as the nerves and jitters of coming out of a college career. Seeing the way that our quarterbacks played, again, you could tell it was a first preseason game, and you can tell there has been competition between them during camp. You can tell they have been through 2-a-days. You can tell they have been tired, and you can tell that it was a first game. You can tell that they needed a day of rest. If you can get where I'm going with this, again, it was a first preseason game. There's not a lot that you really can judge by them on this. I would have preferred that we may have had a scrimmage before the first preseason game. However, we haven't gotten to that point, so we weren't able to kind of test the legs out on our guys to see where we were going to be going with this. Again, it's the first preseason game. I'm really not that concerned with the first preseason game. It was great to see our guys on the field. However, talk to me again in September. Second week out in August, I'm really not expecting a lot out of them. I've seen as much as I need to see from them from their first mini camps, and now I think it's just time to see them get into a real NFL game, because in the preseason, not as many people are playing as hard as they should. Most are just fighting for roster spots. So what are we going to see from them this week? I definitely would love to see that, because this is do or die week. The next 2 preseason games, we already know. The starters really will not be there. It's going to be who's going to be fighting for those last spots to make the 53-man roster. So let's move on from looking at what Bob McNair thinks is his best team that he's ever on, which I definitely agree with him, is the team that he has right here and right now, and the 53 that will come out of this 80-plus man roster that he has on his hands right now. And go on ahead and talk about where do the Texans rank in the list of the NFL's most valuable teams. This week, as I was reading the Wall Street Journal, I got a chance to catch a glimpse of the top 10 teams, the top 10 most valuable teams in the NFL. And the Texans ranked number 5 amongst the top 10 NFL teams. Of course, we all know that the Dallas Cowboys are number 1, coming in at over $2 billion. However, the Houston Texans, a team, again, like Bob McNair says, was still a fairly new team amongst even the expansion teams. Of all 32 teams, the Houston Texans rank number 5 at $1.45 billion. Number 5 behind the New York Jets, who are worth $1.55 billion. And that says a lot for a team like the Houston Texans. That says a lot for their marketing. It says a lot for their PR. It says a lot for their media. And it says a lot about the heart and soul of the team. And that's the 22 players who are out there all the time. The 53-man roster who are out there all the time making these plays happen, whether it be on offense or whether it be on defense. There are 22 men who are out there, obviously 53 men who are out there every single Sunday making sure that this team is supplying not only the entertainment but the true heart and guts and the things that you as a fan pay to go see. They're the jerseys that you buy. They're the koozies that you have. They're the ticket sales that you have. The PSLs, you name it, that we have that support our home team, the Houston Texans. And because of you, the fan, the Texans can claim the number 5 spot of being the 5th most valuable team in the National Football League. That says a lot. You may not be number 1, but you're number 5 of 32. You're number 5 of 32 being an expansion team that has only went as far as you have gone in the past 2 years in the playoffs. Before 2011, who were the Houston Texans? It took us almost 10 years to develop an identity that fans could definitely relate to, and look at where we are now. It almost makes me want to sing the Drake song. We started from the bottom, now we're here. Because that's where the Houston Texans are. We started from the bottom. No one expected us to be this far ahead. In 2005, the Houston Texans were 2-14. I'm not sure if anybody remembers this, but I was there. I witnessed the 2-14 season. I was there when the Houston Texans went from 2-14 under Dom Capers to 6-10 their first year out with Coach Kubiak. I was there when we went 8-8. I was there when we went 9-7. I was there when we went 12-4. I have been there through the hard years. I've been there through the great years. Like many of you who listen to this podcast, I've been there through the rough times, and I'm going to be here through the great times. And to see the Texans go from where they were then to being worth $1.45 billion now, I am okay with being number 5. Dallas can have their number 1 spot up there, up 45. That's fine, and they can go ahead and house where they are in the castle that Jerry has built. That's great, but they're not the Houston Texans, and that's what you need to take pride in. It's one thing to be worth over $2 billion, but there's another thing to be as deep as we are in the playoffs. Tony Romo won't feel the greatness that we feel. Des Bryant will never be Andre Johnson. Point blank, period. It is what it is. You are the Houston Texans. Take your $1.45 billion. Own it. Be prideful in it, because we have something that they will never have. The Cowboys haven't seen playoff wins in over 20 years. I'm not even sure. I don't think I was probably in diapers the last time the Dallas Cowboys went deep into the playoffs. So take what we have now. Don't live for the past, live for the future. And that's what the Houston Texans are in football in Texas. We are the future. Own it. Let's talk about, I got a chance to read over some things this week and looking at our Houston, because the Houston Texans have been very active in the media this week. No matter what it is, whether it has been our worth or Bob McNair or our defense or where we're going next week or just looking ahead, it's been a really great week in the media for the Houston Texans. And I got a chance to read over a story that basically wanted to ask which Texans defensive star wants to go on the offensive. Is it Cushing or is it J.J. Watt? We can find out in a minute. We're going to be able to take another spot.
Football fans, check out ProFootballCentral.com for all the latest NFL news and analysis. Also, check out the very popular Pro Football Central radio network for awesome NFL talk around the league. Go to ProFootballCentral.com. ProFootballCentral.com.
Football fans, looking to get healthy this year? Now is the time, and I have the perfect place for you. Save 10% at onit.com/football radio. Exclusive PFC radio listeners save 10% off their order. That's onit.com, ONNIT.com/football radio.
Okay, fans, and we're back. And before I left, I got a chance to ask you the question, which Texans defensive star wants in on the offense? Is it Brian Cushing or is it J.J. Watt? Well, to answer your question, it's going to be our fun-loving Mr. J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt was quoted this week as saying that I've always been lobbying since day one to be on, and this is via Brian Smith of the Houston Chronicle, saying that it definitely is something that he is definitely lobbying for since day one, is to play on the offense. However, it just hasn't worked out so yet. So I don't think it's going to work just yet, because work for me just soon. But it is Coach Gary Kubiak's team. Now, Coach Kubiak has allowed the thought that they may let J.J. Watt play on the offense at some point, but he's definitely said that the former Badger could be a part of the short yardage on the offense. Now, and that's including what they would like to call the Wisconsin package with the Gary Graham and Owen Daniels. Now, as you as a fan, we know how amazing and how explosive J.J. Watt is on the defense. He is known for swatting down at the line of scrimmage. We definitely can count on a swat from JJ. We can definitely count on JJ swatting someone down when we need him to be. He is the go-to guy when it comes to defense. There's not a lot that you can challenge in JJ Watt's talent. I've even seen him pitch out amazing throws at Astros games. So, how do you feel as a fan as seeing JJ Watt not only be on the defensive side, but pick up his second job and play on the offense? I want to know what you think, the fan, because for me, I'm for it. I think if his body can take it and he can stay healthy throughout it, go for it, JJ. I am all here, because as most people know, I do have slight the crush on a JJ Watt. Definitely, I will make him biscuits any day of the week. So, if he's listening, just letting you know, I know you have a girlfriend, not trying to intrude on anything, but you need a meal, give me a call. I'm just a little country girl, and I'm always here for you, JJ. Moving on, I definitely would love to say that I think if JJ Watt definitely was on the offense, the leadership that he had, the leadership and energy that he brings to the defense, because as anyone knows, the defense for the Houston Texans has not been the most feared defense. We don't have a defense that we definitely can say that most people fear our defense. However, even though they may not fear our defense as a whole, they fear JJ Watt. And there's something to be said about that. When you have a player who can come on, be it offense, defense, secondary, you name it, and they're one segment of that, and any and every team, no matter what he's known for, doesn't know how he's going to come to. JJ is very unpredictable. JJ comes with a talent set and a skill that is very different from anyone else. That's something that teams are definitely afraid of, because they don't know how to predict it. Of course, we know JJ is going to come with a SWAT, but no one knows when and no one knows at what time JJ is going to become JJ SWAT.
Speaking about JJ Watt being on the offense, again, as I said, with the leadership and the confidence and the talent set that JJ Watt brings to the Houston Texans defense, there's no reason to not have him have some time or at least influence on the Houston Texans offense. It wouldn't hurt. Because there's definitely times when the Houston Texans have been down in plenty of games, especially when we play hard opponents, such as the New England Patriots, where leadership and the thought processes of a J.J. Watt are definitely very needed, in my personal opinion. Again, without seeing these things in motion and seeing how they will actually work in a game scheme, we'll never know. However, hypothetically speaking, when you think about it, this couldn't hurt to have a J.J. Watt or even a J.J. Watt-like personality and or talent set on the Houston Texans offense. Again, you want to look to someone like an Andre Johnson or even the vivaciousness or the there that a DeAndre Hopkins brings with his young, fresh legs to the Houston Texans offense to bring that life that we need. However, I don't see a problem with seeing a J.J. Watt bringing the unpredictability that we would definitely need on the offense. Again, the one thing about the Houston Texans that we've definitely learned over time that at times we can be very predictable. A lot of times they're teams, again, smart teams like the New England Patriots, who are definitely a foe that we have yet to conquer, will have figured us out. To see something change up like a J.J. Watt being added into a short yardage package or the Wisconsin, as Coach Kubiak likes to call it, would definitely bring the unpredictability that we would need to definitely be the detail to get over the hump of those teams. So I definitely don't see a problem with seeing a J.J. Watt on our offense as well as our defense. If he can stay healthy and pull it off, let's do it. I'm all for it. However, I want to hear from you, the fan. What do you think of J.J. Watt pulling double duties and being not only on the offense, on the defense, but as well as on the offense? And then, in your personal opinion, is there another player that you think would be suitable to be able to pull double duty, or is J.J. Watt just the man we need to make these things happen? I'm here at Texans Central Radio, and I want to hear from you, the fan, the Houston Texans fan.
Cigar fans, check out fifthdowncigar.com and enter the coupon code PFC to get 10% off your order. Lots of nice high-end cigars. That's fifthdowncigar.com. Enter the code PFC for 10% off your order.
Football fans, check out the official T-shirt apparel shop for the Pro Football Central Radio Network. Check out bigfrog.com/Cincinnati. That's bigfrog.com/Cincinnati. You think it, we ink it. They have an awesome 24-hour turnaround time. You can also visit them at their fabulous store over at Anderson Town Center, 7426 Beachmont Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio 45255. That's bigfrog.com/Cincinnati.
And we're back. So, fans, today we're going to be bringing on a very special guest lined up for you. Like I said earlier at the kickoff, we're going to be bringing on Tyler Brooke before we go into our halftime. And Tyler, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about Tyler before we bring him on. And that is, Tyler is a very amazing writer. Not only is he a part of the Pro Football Central family, but also Tyler is a featured columnist for the Colts, as well as a member of Breaking News for Bleacher Report, as well as, again, as I said, the Pro Football Central family. He's also a current student at the Kelly School of Business in Indiana University, and I'd love for you guys to hear everything that me and Tyler have to talk about today here on Pro Football Central.
We're happy to have you here, Tyler. How are you this evening?
I'm doing very good. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Well, as the whole world knows, Tyler Brooke is my NFL big bro. He is the host of the Indianapolis Colts show here at Pro Football Central. And Tyler, we got a chance to see your Colts the other day, and it wasn't the debut we were expecting. What's your take on this?
Are you talking about the Colts game against the Bills?
Yeah.
Well, first off, I think the thing that really concerned me was kickoff coverage, because I know Jim Irsay, Big Jimmy, kept talking about how kickoff coverage was going to be one of the things they're focusing on. And on 3 kick returns, when you average, 60 yards a return, I think that's kind of a big concern. Then again, we do know, living in Indianapolis, that Colts fans are used to having 0-4 preseasons and then having ridiculous regular seasons. So there's that slight optimism that it's just the preseason, but at the same time, there were things to be concerned about in that game.
True. And also, and look, even though it is the preseason, of course, we all know, the preseason does not count. The preseason is not something that people can base their hopes and dreams on for the entire season. However, it is a good look to see where your favorite players or where your roster has been, what they've been doing over their off season to prepare for the next season. So with that being said, what's your take on what to expect from the Indianapolis Colts in the upcoming season?
Well, the thing I'm pretty still concerned about is the offensive line, especially when you have to play the Texans twice a year with J.J. Watt lining up opposite the line. But, I think some of the off-season additions were good. I'm still concerned about the depth of the offensive line and of the secondary. They brought a lot of undrafted free agent guys who were supposed to be able to fill in, 5th or 6th string corners. and none of them look like they can take that job right now. So for the most part, I think we got a lot of guys banged up. I think some of the guys they've brought in have done well, but I'm still worried about that offensive line and secondary.
And how do you feel Andrew Luck will fare this season? He's going to his sophomore season. Do you expect a slump from Andrew Luck, or do you expect for him to go next level?
Well, what's strange is despite the concerns I have about the offensive line, I think the new offensive scheme they have with Pat Hamilton, the new offensive coordinator, Stanford, is really going to help them, especially in completion percentage. I think he completed 54% of his passes last season, and that's really not a good mark for a rookie. He made a lot of plays, but he also had a lot of turnovers. I think this offensive scheme will take a lot of the burden off Andrew Luck to make play after play. There'll be shorter passing routes, and there will be a power run game that hopefully he can rely on late in the game to run out the clock.
Okay, awesome. And with that being said, last year they had the leadership of Bruce Arians. They had the spirit of Chuck there. He had Dwight Freeney. There were so many things in place there for Andrew Luck, and there were so many things in place for the Indianapolis Colts to fall back on and to get that extra grit and the extra heart and the extra. This is the extra that you need to get over the hump. And they don't have those things this year. Last year, that there was just the Chuck Strong campaigns, you name it. You wanted to root for the Indianapolis Colts last year because there were just so many things that they were battling last year. Now this year, they don't have those same battles. As a fan from the outside looking in, where the fans are going to be pulling from this year? What hope strings are they going to be pulling from this year that they didn't have that are no longer there?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. You actually have to look. If you look at this team on paper, this is by far a more talented team than they saw last year. Last year was a team that outperformed all expectations, mostly because of the Chuck Strong movement. I think fans can be happy that there's going to be a lot more big players that can make plays on this team. You look at the wide receivers and the T.Y. Hilton, Reggie Wayne, even Darius Hayward-Bay, especially if you look at the tight ends in Kobe Fleener and Dwayne Allen. Fans can be rest assured that there's going to be plenty of offensive weapons for Andrew Luck to throw to in his sophomore season. I don't think they win as many games this year, especially because of the Chuck Strong movement of last season, but I think overall they're going to see better play from the team.
And what do you predict? What do you see the Colts being at the end of the season? Do you foresee them going back to the playoffs?
Yes, I have them at 9-7, and the Texans winning the division at 10-6. Strangely enough, I think at 9-7, it's good enough for a wild card spot in the AFC. The AFC is pretty weak this year. You don't have many strong teams, while the NFC has a bunch of better teams. So I think the Colts get in that 6-seed wild card. I think they might be able to surprise someone in the wild card round, but I honestly don't think they get past the divisional round.
Okay, now just let's pause for a moment, because you did just put my Houston Texans at 10-6, and not to jump off your Indianapolis Colts, because I love the rivalry between us. However, you just put my Texans at 10-6. I have us at 11-5 realistically, and you just put us at 10-6. So I know, just like I want to know, my fans and every other Houston Texans fan will want to know, why would you put us at 10-6?
Well, I think you got to look at the division they're playing in the NFC West. That is not a division to mess with. I think the AFC South is going to struggle against the NFC West as a whole. Because I think you obviously have the 49ers and Seahawks, but I think the Cardinals and Rams those are trap games for anyone in the AFC South. I have the Colts losing against either the Cardinals or the Chargers. I think the Texans are going to struggle against the Seahawks and 49ers, because those are two Super Bowl favorite picks right now. But overall, I think the Texans will probably be one of the better 10-6 teams out there. I think, honestly, they can make a deep run, especially if J.J. Watt can do the 20-20-20 club he keeps talking about.
And again, I agree. I definitely foresee J.J. Watt doing the 2020 club that he has definitely predicted for himself. And I definitely, I'm definitely on his side with raising the bar of expectation for oneself when coming from a stellar year that he had last year. I definitely, again, though you may see my Texans at 10-6, I see them going 11-5 due to the fact that the 49ers of this season are not the 49ers of last year. They're just
Very
not.
True.
the thing you have to look at. You have the Crabtree injury. Even when he comes back from this injury that we have, we don't know where he's gonna be. Frank Gore isn't who we thought he was. We have Vernon Davis, who they're trying to switch out and play more than one position. So the 49ers of last year are definitely not the 49ers of this year. And again, in the Super Bowl, the 49ers were exposed. A team that very well parallels the Houston Texans or the Atlanta Falcons, and we saw what the 49ers did to the Atlanta Falcons. So that definitely was a learning experience for any team out there that had a similar scheme. So we've gotten a chance to see where the 49ers are weak and where the 49ers are strong. And the Baltimore Ravens, a team that was totally, by the time that they got to the Super Bowl, were tired, they were overplayed, they were this, they were that, you name it, and they still came out on top over the 49ers. Whether we want to blame a ref, we want to blame a call, whatever the case may be, there were holes that the 49ers had that were exposed. So, which is again why I definitely see the Houston Texans being 11-5, no matter who the 49ers are. The Seahawks, of course, they were exposed by Atlanta. To just ironically, when you look at it, the Seahawks were exposed by Atlanta. That game, the Atlanta Falcons were not supposed to win. That game, the Seahawks should have won, but they didn't because they were exposed. So no matter who plays the Seattle Seahawks this year, if they go back and they watch those tapes and they look at the things that were missed and the details that were missed by the Seattle Seahawks, I definitely think that any and every team that plays them, especially when it comes to a playoff game, definitely has a lot to see and a lot to study. I do agree with what you say with the Indianapolis Colts. I definitely see them going 9-7 because again, they're not fighting for the same things this year that they were fighting for last year. However, Andrew Luck is one of the bigger quarterbacks that's out there right now going into his sophomore year, and I definitely think this year he not only does, even though they don't have the Chuck Strong campaign to live up to, he also doesn't have the pressures that he was living up to of the Peyton legacy.
ProFootballCentral.com for all the latest NFL news and analysis. Also check out the very popular Pro Football Central Radio Network for awesome NFL talk around the league. Go to ProFootballCentral.com. ProFootballCentral.com.
Hey, Houston Texans fans, we're back and halftime is over. I hope you got something to drink, something to eat, took a restroom break, you name it. Now it's time for us to go into the third quarter of our show here at Texans Central Radio. Here's what we can expect tomorrow when we go into Reliance Stadium, because Reliance Stadium has actually got an upgrade. If you can believe it or not, we will actually be able to see our own video boards. They're going to be video boards similar to what Jerry Jones has in the house that Jerry built, but we will have our own video boards. And instead of them being in the center of the stadium and blocking kicks and punts and whatever, we will have our own video boards that will actually be at the end zones of the stadium tomorrow. And tomorrow will be unveiling them for fans. As Texans Vice President James Roots explained, it'll be able to enhance the fan experience at Reliance Stadium. So when you walk into the stadium, you'll definitely be able to see replays, kickoffs, you name it there, because both screens will be at the end of each end zone, and they're going to be bigger than the screens from last year. And it's also been rumored that they have a better clarity than what Dallas has in their stadium, and they're going to be of a better experience than what you could have had if you go to the stadium up in Arlington. So, with that being said, Dallas, you got a little bit of competition because, hey, Houston has new video boards. Thanks, Mitsubishi. I used to drive a Mitsubishi back in the day, so I'm very excited to see the new video boards that are going to be up in the stadium. As well as, if you're a fan like me, I don't necessarily always eat at games. Thank God for being in the press box all the time, even though the press box food isn't always the greatest. There will be new menu offerings. There's going to be a new Coca-Cola meal that's going to be offered at Reliance Stadium now. I don't remember exactly what's all in it, but it's going to be a new value meal that they're going to have at the stadium. So you don't always have to feel as though you're reaching too deep into your pockets to eat when you're going into Reliance Stadium. And as a fan, that definitely is something to look forward to, because when you think about it, after parking, after tickets, after you buy a koozie or a t-shirt or a jersey or something for your kids or your wife or your husband, whatever the case may be, you walk out of a game, you have spent well more than what you anticipated. So it's very comforting knowing that Reliance Stadium and the people who were at Reliance Stadium and behind the team understand that fans not only want to come to the game and have the experience, but we like to eat and we like to have a beverage as well as enjoy the game. So be on the lookout for that. There's definitely going to be new menu offerings as well as a new video boards when you visit Reliance Stadium starting tomorrow, August 17th. So definitely Reliance Stadium and the people at the Houston Texans are definitely listening to what the fans want as far as the fan experience is concerned. So keep voicing your concerns as fans, and they'll keep making those upgrades and innovations as a team. Moving on, we definitely want to talk about what's going to happen between tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be Miami versus Houston. Are the Houston Texans concerned really about Miami? Not in the slightest. But you never know, because just like any other team that never knows, look at the Atlanta Falcons last night. Who would have predicted that the Atlanta Falcons would have lost last night? I definitely wouldn't have. No matter if the starters would have been playing or the second string would have been playing. Because the Atlanta Falcons, similar to the Houston Texans, similar to the 49ers, the Ravens, you name it, are teams that are built to win. However, the Falcons couldn't pull off a win against the Ravens last night. And yes, we all know that the Baltimore Ravens are the Super Bowl winners of last year. However, the Baltimore Ravens of 2013 aren't the 2012 Baltimore Ravens. The same can be said about the Atlanta Falcons. But again, I never expected that the Atlanta Falcons would have lost last night. They have such a strong talent base that's been together for multiple years, and they didn't lose the significant starters that the Baltimore Ravens did. So I didn't expect them to lose last night. However, they did. So we can't take away from who Miami is. Is Tannehill the best quarterback? No, he's not. Do they have Reggie Bush back? No, they don't. You have Mike Wallace, who's there now. He's just there to get paid. We all know that. They have Deion Jordan, who's day to day. Miami has a lot of ups and a lot of downs. But there's 5 key things that I definitely want to go over for the Miami versus Houston game tomorrow. As we all know, there were 9 starters who did not make and or play in the Minnesota game last week. They will be on the field this week, as quoted by Coach Kubiak. We will see some playing time by all 9 starters who we didn't see in preseason week 1. We will see them in preseason week 2, including Andre Johnson and Brian Cushing and J.J. Watt. They will be on the field. Brian Cushing will make his return tomorrow after over 10 months from recovering from ACL surgery. So, as quoted by Coach Gary Kubiak this week, when Cush is in there, and we see a lot of ours inside stunts, it pushes people up. This is quoted by Coach Gary Kubiak. So, therefore, look for Brian Cushing to be on the field tomorrow. For however many plays, it doesn't matter. But just know that when Cush is on the field, people will step up. Know that when Cush is on the field, that there's an unpredictability that's there. There's a defensive mindset that changes when he's on the field. Everyone around him knows that they have to step up to the level that he's playing, because he's going to go 200%. And there's no way that you're going to be on the same line as a Brian Cushing and not go the additional 200% that he's going to give you each and every time he's on that field. The second thing to look forward to in the Miami versus Houston game tomorrow is you're going to look for the matchup between Richie Incognito and Antonio Smith. Last year in 2012, there's a little bit of a kick here and a shove here and a push there between Smith and Incognito during the kickoff of week 1 in 2012. So definitely there's something to look for between that. There definitely is going to be some blood in the water, and I expect 2 Sharks to go head to head tomorrow. Also, let's look at our QB shuffle. We have Schaub starting, and we have the battle between Yates and Keenum. Now, even though TJ Yates led the team as far as he could, being the backup after everything that happened to poor little Matt Schaub a couple of years ago, going into the playoffs. We also have this season the fight between Yates and Keenum. Keenum, who basically toted U of H on his back during his career at the University of Houston and led U of H farther than probably I had ever seen in my time living in Houston, Texas. He led the University of Houston to a national level. No one was talking about U of H before Casey Keenum for a long time. Probably not since the Heisman was there with Andre. However, they were talking about the University of Houston while Casey Keenum was there. Now Casey Keenum is a Houston Texan, and people are talking again. And it's an amazing thing to see a player such as Casey Keenum not only carry the University of Houston on his back, but also lead on the field with the Houston Texans. However, let's not take away from who T.J. Yates is. T.J. Yates was an unknown who came from behind, who was a third string on the bench for the Houston Texans and carried the Houston Texans into the postseason while Matt Schaub was recovering. And that's something we can't take from him. At this point, it remains to be said that Keenum went 13-18 against Minnesota. However, Yates is still number 2, but Keenum is definitely strong on his heels. So definitely look to see for the battle, not only through tomorrow's game, but through the end of August and into September, to the battle of the backup QBs with the Houston Texans. The fourth thing we want to look at is our RB Tango. Arian Foster has been battling not only his calf, but his back. So with that being said, we still have Ben Tate to look at. We have Dennis Johnson to look at. We have Sierra Wood, the rookie, to look at. We have DJ Kareem to look at. We have Ray Graham to look at. There's so many to look at with the RBs that we have with the Houston Texans. It's ridiculous. And as we all remember, DJ, I hope I'm saying his name right. I think it's DJ or Dijay Kareem, who went for six times for 37 yards in the Vikings game. Definitely a lot to look at on the RB tango that's going on down in Houston. And again, as I've said time and time again through today's show, J.J. Watt. He's definitely the star of the Houston Texans right now. And again, the last time that J.J. Watt was on the field, he had 5 tackles, 1 sack, and a pass and a pair of batted passes and a playoff victory over the Cincinnati Bengals. So there's definitely a lot to look at when we come to tomorrow's game. Is it going to be tomorrow's game will probably be the most exciting game of the preseason. So as a fan, when you arrive to Reliance Stadium tomorrow, as you turn on your TV tomorrow, and as you fill every sports bar in the city of Houston or wherever you may be to watch this game tomorrow, there's so many things and so many levels that we need to look on and to look forward to, because this will probably be the most exciting game to the season opener kicks off on September 9th. There's not so much to look forward to until then. So tomorrow we have to take as much as we can to that game. And as we proceed from going into looking at the 5 things to look for between the Houston Texans versus the Miami Dolphins tomorrow, and you can follow along on Twitter for this particular game at hashtag HOU versus, which is VSMIA tomorrow. Also, you can definitely follow along with me at Texans Central PF and or the Realist 007, for I will be live tweeting throughout tomorrow's game. But we can also take this into our 2-minute conversion as we wrap up today's show and talk about a couple of camp updates that I would definitely like to let you fans know about. And that is going over the fact that Arian Foster this week decided to sign with the William Morris Talent Agency after fulfilling his dream during the Pro Bowl season of being on an episode of Hawaii Five-0. The Pro Bowler decided this week to sign with the William Morris Talent Agency and be represented by them. So I definitely think that we should support Arian Foster in his acting dreams, as he definitely is something of a Rhodes Scholar. He's a Renaissance man. He explores his horizons, and it's safe to say that since his wife is someone who explores the arts, being a former pop singer, is definitely something that we should be keep our eyes open for, to see Arian explore every possibility outside of football, as well as enjoying his football career. As well as, I almost forgot, this week was was Coach Gary Kubiak's birthday. And if you follow along the Houston Texans as well as myself, we were able to wish Coach Gary Kubiak a happy birthday yesterday. He is a Leo, like my mother, and my brother, which means that I'm sure that at certain points during the season, Coach Kubiak cries in his pillow, like most Leo men. But I don't hold it against him. Most Leos I know are emotional people, and that's what makes them really nice people. But that's the 2-point conversion for today's show. I hope that tomorrow that every Houston Texans fan has on either their battle red, their steel blue, their Liberty blue, their steel white, you name it, have it all on, and they're at Reliant Stadium on time, and that you stayed through the fourth quarter. No leaving at the third. This has been my time today for all you Houston Texans fans. I'm your host, Jay Anderson, and I'm here for all things Houston Texans all the time, no matter what. There is no off season. I'm here. It's been my pleasure to talk to you, and I hope to see you again next week. Same time, same station. Have a great evening.
This has been a presentation of the Pro Football Central Network. For news, blogs, highlights, and more, log on to ProFootballCentral.com.